Getting all the way back up again. Let's see. Are we on? I need to get that so I can see it. All right. We're gonna. Just good morning, everybody. How are you guys doing this morning? Microphones on. Everything is on. We are going. Is live. I am Coach Ken. I am coming in from Anchorage, Alaska. Hope you guys are doing good. Would love to hear where you guys are coming in from. And just write that down in the comment. We're currently on Instagram and YouTube Live. So, hey, hope you guys are having an awesome one today and are doing great. And as you're coming in, I want to share a story. I came across this one today, and I thought this was really, really powerful. Because part of what, when we talk about mental health, we talk about physical health, we talk about spiritual health as a wellness preacher and Coach Ken, that's really, really important to me. So I wanted to just share with you a very simple thought that happened. This was back in December 9th of 1987. There was a squirrel that got very industrious. Now, I'm sitting here with a cat that loved squirreling. Yin Zoe. Yep. Zoe sitting here. Zoe loved squirrel back in the day when she got to go play outside in Alaska. Don't let her out in how because we got eagles that would take her really in a heartbeat. So, but in December 10th of 1987, a squirrel, or December 9th, 1987, a squirrel started chewing on some cords and some cables for something that it's a power line for a company you probably heard of called NASDAQ, right? Chewed through the cables, all the way through those cables on the NASDAQ, and everything went dark. So if you think that what you're doing is something so small it won't make a difference, that is an incredible reminder that the things that you do can make a huge difference. They can make a massive difference. So, guys, hey, I'm Coach Ken. I'm up here in Anchorage, Alaska. It is 5 a.m. in the morning up here. It is still dark as can be. We've got, I think, 18 inches of snow that we have on the ground. How has your winter been? How have things been going? How has been the maybe you think about the winter of your soul and your body? How are you doing as you came into 2026? What were some of the decisions that you made regarding your health? All right. Um, and I want to focus on something called insulin resistance. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with this. Maybe you are. Not everybody is. And here's the thing I want you to start to think about is when you think about, and let me pull this up real quick because this might help. I've been learning a little bit more because this will, there we go, at the bottom. So if you look right down there, all right, that simple wheel gives you kind of a perspective of what insulin resistance is. All right. Insulin resistance is the root cause of most of our chronic diseases. Now, when I say chronic diseases, we're talking about things that happen inside the body, not the germs and the diseases that happen outside the body. So we're not talking about things like the flu, right? That's not what we're talking about. Even if we were talking about the pandemic, we're talking about things that are related to the pandemic. Many folks that were unalive because of the pandemic happened because they were dealing with metabolic syndrome. So those are things that are so important to realize. So that's what insulin resistance. That's kind of the root of there. And there's different signs of that that you and I have, right? And I don't know if you can recognize, maybe you recognize one or two of those. When it comes to insulin resistance, most of us think about what? We think about insulin, we think about type 2 diabetes. That's kind of like the predominant thing that we're thinking about. And I reverse type 2 diabetes. I love saying that I used to be a type 2 diabetic. I used to be a type 2 diabetic because there's a school of thought, and I love this one. I'm going to share with you from my buddy Jim that you can't reverse type 2 diabetes. That was used to be a thought that people had that you can't do that. And so I've got some testimonials of people that I know that have gone through this journey, all right, that have had these things happen to me because we share that story. And I think Jim's is, if you were on yesterday, you might have seen Jim's testimony because it's a powerful one.
12.2% A1C. When we discovered I was type 2 diabetic, my mother-in-law came over with her little glucose meter. I had a fasting glucose of like 470. It was absolutely through the roof. I started max dose of metformin, 2,000 milligrams a day, and then I was on a max dose of Trulicity, the GLP-1 that I was on, and then I was on 40 milligrams a day of rosuvastatin because that's what you do. You have type 2 diabetes, you get on a statin. I started this in the beginning of January in 2023. I wasn't looking for this. I had a friend of mine that was talking about it, and she said, you should try this. A lot of people are reversing type 2 diabetes. I thought, you're smart. Don't say stupid thing. Can't reverse type 2 diabetes. Honestly, at that time, Trulicity was on national back order. I didn't have a choice. I couldn't get my medication. So I did start it out of trust. February 16th, I got a call from my endocrinologist saying that I could quit taking my medications altogether. My glucose numbers were in the norm. And then on April 20th, we tested my A1C and it was 5.2. In August, it was back down to 5.1. This is 2023. In October, I had it pulled again. So I've been unmedicated at that point for 20 months. It was 4.8. It just keeps going down. And you mentioned my triglycerides to HDL. I didn't know anything about that. But when they initially pulled my numbers, it was a 561 triglyceride and a 22 HDL. And so the ratio was 25.5. I spent 25 years getting sick. My message to everybody listening is if somebody's telling you about this, you should try it.
And so what I want to talk about is what you should do, how you can try what we're talking about. And it really boils down to 2 lifestyle changes and tools that my wife, the beautiful Dr. G, and I use every single day. And we coach people on that. We help people on that. We've reversed our type 2 diabetes, and we are here helping our clients do the same thing. We want to help you with that as well. Hey guys, I'm Coach Ken. I'm up in Anchorage, Alaska. Wherever you happen to be coming in from, type in the comments. If you recognize maybe you have 1, 2, 3 or more of the symptoms right down here, you're seeing these signs in your body, then you're dealing with something called insulin resistance. All right. And that has to do with a very simple thing. When you consume food, this is at its core. This is as simple as it gets. When you consume foods, when you consume carbohydrates, when you consume proteins, when you consume fats, it's the simplest thing. Now, right now, if you're paying attention, we just got a whole new set of guidelines from our FDA regarding an HSA, all right, about changing how we do our food. That is a whole new thing. I should be pulling that up right now, shouldn't I? And talking about that because now we have flipped the pyramid upside down, right? We have flipped that pyramid upside down. We now have a funnel, and it starts with proteins and fiber. All right, we're talking about fruits and vegetables and protein being the key with healthy fats in there. And the smallest thing is carbs, because carbs, when you consume carbs, spike your blood sugar. We know this by the fact that's why it's been changed. Blood sugar spikes and insulin spikes. That's what happens every single time. Now, there's smarter people than me, like Dr. Ben Bickman, who studies fat cells, that if you removed insulin from a fat cell, they shrink. When he adds insulin to a fat cell, they grow. Insulin is an anabolic hormone. So every time you're eating and your blood sugar spikes, your insulin increases. So you have basically it's like a boxing match. How much of you like boxing? How much of you are big boxing fans? It's like this 1-2 punch. It's like your insulin spikes, your blood sugar, your insulin increases. Your blood sugar spikes, your insulin increases. Blood sugar, insulin, blood sugar, insulin, blood sugar, insulin, blood sugar, insulin, blood sugar, insulin. And we're doing this to our body all day long. And we don't have to be. We don't have to be. How many of you brain fog is probably the best thing to think about. How many of you get brain fog during the day where it just gets to wear you down? I will tell you, yesterday was a very emotional day for me. Yesterday was the anniversary of my late wife. Our anniversary, our wedding anniversary. She died of colon cancer. One of the fastest growing cancers in millennials. If you're a millennial, you need to be listening to this. Here's the thing. When you are dealing with metabolic diseases, here's the thing. 93% of people in the US are metabolically unhealthy. Your doctor's not going to explain this to you. I can tell you my doctor didn't explain it. When they diagnosed me with diabetes, I didn't get any explanation. What I'm sharing with you is I became a nutrition coach. I learned about this because I wanted to help people, right? And you can take this or not, all right? But here's the thing. 93% of us are metabolically unhealthy, but 95% of us don't get enough fiber in our diet. We are not consuming enough fiber in our diet. And when I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, all right, that's where I was at. All right. This was me right over here, type 2 diabetic, right? 200 pounds, dealing with multiple signs right here, heart disease. I had anxiety, depression, every single one of those. All right. What I did was I paid attention to what my wife was doing, the beautiful Dr. G. I paid attention to what she was doing, right? I reversed my type 2 diabetes. That's me right there. All right. That's me 4 months into 2024. May 1 of 2024, I started doing the protocol. I started making these changes. All right. I lost almost 50 pounds in those 4 months, brought my blood pressure back down. My triglycerides came back down. My health overall completely reversed and went in the direction that I wanted it to. So now at 54, I feel more like I'm 24. How many of you would like to feel younger? How many of you all would like to feel younger? If that's you, type me in the comments. Just type me in the comments. That's as simple as it gets. Let me know some of you folks are out there. Just type me in the comments. If you are on there, this is kind of a new format for me. So would love to know. And again, I'm Coach Ken. I'm up here in Anchorage, Alaska, and I reversed insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. And I'm here to help folks um, with Healthy Together and Feeling Great. That is what my wife and I, we do that together in helping people to reverse insulin resistance. You do not have to stay a type 2 diabetic. You do not have to stay with skin tags. Unless you like skin tags. How many of y'all like skin tags? I know that's really a sarcastic thing to say, right? How many of you actually like skin tags? Type yes in the comments. Are they attractive? Do you like them on your body? I had some of those, right? Your doctors and your nurses are going to tell you you need to go to the dermatologist. You need to have those removed because nobody's explaining to you, as nobody did for me. Those are like the mini storage units of your body, the excess blood sugar that cannot go to the brain, that cannot go to the liver, all right, that cannot be stored, cannot go to fat cells. There's no more place. They start putting it into those mini storage units called skin tags. All right. So making those changes is huge. So what happened for me and Dr. G? It was that here was Dr. G, all right, very same time period, took her about 7 months. She's lost over 67 pounds, all right. She's gone and reversed her type 2 diabetes. You don't have to stay sick and tired, all right. Neuropathy and fibromyalgia, reverse that as well. All those things completely reversed. So why do we have this problem? Let's go right into that. Let's delve into why do we have this problem. Here's the thing. So 93% of us are metabolically unhealthy. 95% of us don't get enough fiber in our diet. How many of y'all are familiar with this guy right here? All right. This is Joe Cool. All right. Y'all know Joe Cool, J.R. Reynolds Company. In 1963, they bought their first food company. 1963, they buy their very first food company. Okay, huge, huge. They buy their first food company and they start to take all of the fiber out of the food. So, and by the 80s, they have now purchased all of these food companies. All right, tobacco companies own all the food companies and they remove all of the fiber from our diet. So now that's the problem that we are facing in our world is that we have got all of the fiber removed from our food. What the heck? How are we supposed to get what we need if fiber has been removed from our food, right? Because what fiber is doing, it changes the profile of the food. And this is why when we look at the new food pyramid, we see such a huge difference. Now, I know there's of course debate about that. I'm gonna see if I can pull that up real quick. For those of y'all have not seen the new food pyramid, this is important, all right? Because as I say, it's really not a pyramid anymore. It's a funnel. Let's see. Do, do, do. All right. Uh, new. Yeah. So here's our new. Let's copy and download this image. We're going to get this open here in just a second. Try and download this. All right, download this image. So if you haven't seen this, all right, so very important for us to take a look at this. All right, it's not really doing what I wanted it to do. See if I'll snap a picture of it. There we go. All right, this is over from NPR. And we're going to flip this back around. We get a chance to take a look. So if you have not seen this, all right, if you have not seen this, so this is our new food pyramid or our food funnel. I want y'all to take a look at that. Completely changed now. Completely changed. This is the food pyramid that will help to reverse insulin resistance. We're going to see, if people will start to pay attention to this, we are going to see those diabetes levels drop. We're going to see heart disease head in a different direction. We're going to see, if we will do consistently what this is, we're going to start to see this take place, because what we're doing is we can now change and learn to pay attention to the food that we're eating. All right. That's the biggest cause for insulin resistance. That is the biggest cause for insulin resistance. So what we've got to do is change a little bit about how we're eating. How many of y'all have heard of food order, or meal sequencing? How many of y'all have ever heard of meal order, meal sequencing? Because that's really what this is going to deal with right out of the gate. So fiber has been taken out of our food. So by changing that food pyramid, we're now going to be getting fiber. Now we're being very intentional about the fiber that we're getting. All right, that's going to be key. See, everything that's processed, these processed foods that we get in nature, very particular ones, even ones we don't even think about, we've got it there. So we've got to change that. I didn't realize that. I had no idea. So back in 2023, when I was diagnosed with diabetes, all right, it was in December. My wife, Dr. G, was diagnosed in January. She got on the phone, started to call a friend who was a nurse and a diabetes educator. They were the ones out of the gate that said, hey, you know what? You've got to get started on this protocol. You really want to get started on this protocol. And she was like, what are you talking about? She said, this is the thing. You want to go, here's where you want to get. This protocol right here is in the provider's digital reference. If you go to the pdr.net, doc, you're a doctor, you can prescribe those medications. All right, you can prescribe that. All right, those of y'all that are looking in here, that coming in, my wife is a doctor. She's been using the pdr.net for years. For years, she's been using the pdr.net. So she started using this product. Within the first couple of weeks, literally her neuropathy and fibromyalgia disappeared. The first couple of weeks, just by starting to drink a tea and a fiber product. That is it. That was a game changer right there. And with it came a change in the meal order. See, this is the thing. Part of this is starting with plant fiber. That's the thing that changes. This is why it takes all the thought out of it. This is plant fiber. There's 7 different soluble and insoluble fibers that are in this product. All right, 7. This is in the PDR.net. It's the only one like its kind. If you go to the PDR.net and you look this up, there's only one of this kind that's in there. We can jump over on the computer if that's going to be helpful for you to take a look at. So the PDR.net, this is 7 different soluble, insoluble fibers. You drink this right before your biggest meal of the day. So that's what she started doing. So we started with fiber. Meal sequencing. All right, let's back that up with a little science. All right, why is this important? Guess what? If we eat in a certain order, this is from UCLA. If we eat in a certain order, controls your blood glucose levels. We eat in an order. If we change the order that we're eating, all right, that order over in the Ohio State is to eat fiber and proteins and then add carbs. All right. Last is meal sequencing. Okay, here we're going to go back. I want you to see. So our new food pyramid, right? What are we saying? Our new food pyramid, proteins and fiber. Proteins and fiber. We're going to see a massive change, a massive shift now because of that change. And it's going to happen quickly. It's going to take some time, but I believe we are already, so many folks are already on that route. We're going to see it improve quickly. We're going to see it improve incredibly quickly. So these issues down here, we're going to see them disappearing. And if you look at them, that's going to mirror many of the issues that are unaliving us, right? So when we look at the things that typically unalive us in the US, all right, that's huge. That's huge. We're looking at these different things, heart disease, right? We're talking about diabetes. We're talking about Alzheimer's disease. All right. All of these things we're looking at down here. Incredible changes are coming our way. So if we change the order that we eat, we're going to eat fiber, proteins, and fats, and we leave carbs to the end of the meal. All right. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. When God created the world, he didn't create it, all right, with God didn't create this world going, hey, you know what? Well, let's start with pharmaceutical companies. Let's start with medications. So when God created the world, God created with plants, right? God created with plants. He didn't start with pharma. He started with plants. He started with farms, not pharma, right? There we go. So we want to cut the crap out. We want to focus on whole foods. We want to do fiber, fats, and proteins, or fiber, proteins, and fats. But think about eating 30, 60, 90. We're talking about talking with nutritionists, other nutritionists, dietitians. We want to get 30 grams of fiber, 60 grams of healthy fats, and a minimum of 90 grams of protein. All right. Now, when I was losing weight, when I was diabetic, all right, when I was 200 pounds and well overweight, all right, when I was this guy right here, all right, I started to eat 130 to 150 grams of protein, never getting below that 90. All right. Doing that, all right, not eating less protein, eating more protein helped me move from this guy right here to this guy right here. All right. I went from basically being and feeling like I was 54, my age probably closer to 60, to feeling more like I'm 24. I went from wearing extra larges down to wearing mediums in just a couple of months. So that was huge. The other thing that we started doing was this. We started to do intermittent fasting. So if you've never done intermittent fasting, all right, Dr. Jason Fung, Complete Guide to Intermittent Fasting. When you are doing intermittent fasting, you are bringing your insulin levels lower than when you're doing calorie restriction. All right. When you are doing intermittent fasting, you are bringing your insulin levels lower than when you're doing calorie restriction. All right. And here's what Dr. Jason Fung writes. During fasting, unlike during calorie reduction, metabolism stabilizes or even increases, all right, to maintain normal energy levels. So you're not needing to eat more to stay metabolically healthy. You don't have to do that. That's not the key. All right. Your adrenaline and growth hormone increases to maintain energy and muscle mass. Blood sugar and insulin levels go down as the body changes from burning sugar to burning fat. You're going to become more clear-headed. You're not going to have your body, all right, so dependent on having those carbohydrates and having to eat all the time to keep your energy levels up. When we started to do this, here was the great part about this. Right here, the T, this was the game changer because right here, this helped us to control our GLP-1. This is a GLP-1 stimulator. That's what the tea does. It has full of chlorogenic acid and 375 times the chlorogenic acid of anything on the market. Drink the tea and sip on that through the course of the day. Then we'll drink the fiber before our biggest meal. And it was that simple. That was the change. I started doing intermittent fasting. I eat now when I'm hungry, right? I eat when I'm hungry. And when I do, then I always make sure that I have fiber before every single meal that I eat. So what I do is I skip breakfast. I don't eat breakfast in the morning. First thing, I start to drink my tea. I'm drinking my tea this morning. Those of y'all that are coming in, I'm enjoying my tea right now. Right? Brain fog, gone. I started to do this. This is also a bronchial dilator. This is a vascular dilator. So it allows your blood vessels to constrict and be more flexible, right? So it also starts to bring down your blood pressure. My blood pressure was 145 over 93. Not anymore. Not anymore. I was able to see all of that reverse. All right. I usually then will eat I usually typically eat 2 meals a day, sometimes 1 meal a day. I try not to eat until about 12 or 1 o'clock. So I'm doing intermittent fasting. And then again around 6 o'clock. Some days I will eat in the afternoon, usually around 3 or 4 o'clock. And so basically, I like to fast for somewhere between 18 and 22 to 24 hours. Doing that consistently allows my body to get to autophagy. It has changed my health. It has changed my wife's health. Right. So crazy, crazy. That's us today. Completely changed. All right. And you want to stop stacking before or in between meals. That's one of the big things that we want to do. Don't quit. You got to be consistent. You've got to be consistent. If you're going to reverse insulin resistance, you're going to need to be consistent. We do this product for 90 days. There's a 90-day money back guarantee. Give it 90 days. When you go on medications, your doctors are going to say, give it 90 days. They want to see you on it for 90 days. That is going to be a consistent thing that they're going to ask for over and over again. All right. They want to see that in the blood work. We're not talking just about losing weight. We're talking about what happens in that blood work. So you're not guessing about what's happening, and your doctor can actually talk to you about it. All right. It is HSA and FSA qualified.
Struggled with prediabetes, weight gain, high cholesterol, skin tags, PCOS, and so much more. I started the protocol and it helped me not only lose over 90 pounds, but I reversed my prediabetes, lowering my A1C from 5.7 to 5.1. I've lowered my cholesterol with my triglycerides from over 200 to 53, and also raised my HDL from 49 to 65. And I also got off my metformin that I took for over 20 years. I am so grateful that I found this because it is simple, it is effective, and it is doable. It has completely changed my life, and I am not stopping anytime soon.
All right. So that's just a couple of things that, I'm going to show out a couple of more testimonies. We'll see if I can pull up a few more of folks that that I've got on here. Let's see. Here is Crystal.
At 54 years old, we were both in a scary place. My husband, I was more concerned about him because he looked like your classic heart attack waiting to happen with the big protruding belly that's hard when you press it. Our labs were bad. He got a horrible report right about the time I was finding this. I had tried everything to lose weight. I have Hashimoto's and hypothyroidism. I craved salty things, but I didn't eat that much. I ate very clean to begin with and very low carb for many years, but I could not lose an ounce. He had fatty liver, hypertension, so did I. We both crossed the pre-diabetes range with our blood glucose levels. My gut was a total mess, and I'm like, he's got to start this. So I was too cheap to purchase it for both of us, and I purchased it for him first. And I truly believe in this system when it comes to my digestive my triglycerides have gone from 216 to 69. My HDL went from 60 to 83. My LDL went from 144 down to 88. And I haven't had a true flare up since I started this system. And my antibodies for thyroid went from 3,600 down to 400. But I did figure my insulin resistance score. My score was 3.2, and it has come down to 0.8.
Wow.
Danny, his labs are completely wonderful. He had fatty liver, and his biggest problem was his lipids, of course. He's lost 50 pounds. I've lost 58 pounds. His AST was a big one. It was 81. That was attributable to fatty liver, and his AST went from 81 down to 23 now.
So Crystal story right there. Total life change, and we see that happening over and over again. So the product is really just this simple. All right, you're going to change the order in the eat. You're going to have fiber before your meals. All right, at least once a day. Right, have the fiber. This has been shown at the Cleveland Clinic. All right, arguably #1 heart hospital in the world, to act like a statin medication. All right, no side effects. All right, no contraindications with any medication that you're on. In addition to that, the University of Sydney, right, has determined this works like that metformin, right? This will lower your blood sugar, that postprandial glucose spike that brings that down, All right. So we're going to have fiber, everything that our new food pyramid is talking about. So it was just super life changing. When we started experiencing with the kid test, like helping them get better. Hi, Lacey. Let's see. What do we got on there? I'm trying to read. It's like, absolutely. For sure. Is that part of your story? I had somebody ask me about this with my kids, if I would do this when they were younger. Um, um, so for me, my kids, they're older now, of course, but I would have done this with them. And every time, because they had health issues we didn't know. And my late wife, yesterday would have been our 30th wedding anniversary. Um, Died of colon cancer, and what we know is that is one of the leading things that's hurting us in our life. So, what did you guys do? And Because that was one of the things I know with my son now. He actually drinks the tea. Will tell you it is probably one of the best energy drinks and has helped him with clarity of mind at work throughout the course of the day. As somebody that had issues oftentimes in school, so it's a huge thing, and that's part of what happens with our food. I was talking with a coworker yesterday about the food pyramid change and going from a pyramid to a funnel. Is that we were growing up, I heard commercials. I was joking around about the jingles that are still stuck in our head. Rice Aroni, the San Francisco treat, or hamburger helper, helped her hamburger, help her make a great meal. I know you probably don't even remember that one. You probably weren't even around when those came out. But here's the thing, that those jingles get stuck in our head, but everything there is based in carbs. And it was those processed foods. We put that with our whole foods, and we got really addicted to all of those foods that we get hit with all the time. So it's absolutely important for us to realize how that changes things and what it does. And when we have sugar, one of the things we talk about is sugar in the brain is ADHD. Sugar in the brain for adults typically is now Alzheimer's, type 3 diabetes. And so realizing those things, how it is impacting us, that's really crazy, right? That's really crazy. I remember talking to my mom. I grew up in the 70s, really the start of the processed food generation. The only breakfast cereal that my mom would let me eat was sugar cereal, was Apple Jacks, because it had apples in it, and it was not, it was as just Fruit Loops, and we know Fruit Loops are like so very bad for us. So skipping breakfast, we were lied to about that. We were told that was the most important meal of the day, and it's not. It's completely false. Breakfast is not the most important meal of the day. We skip breakfast, we're just fine. Our body is going to then be, the longer we delay that, our body taps into our fats fuel sources. That's what insulin did. It put everything into our fat cells, right? And we're moving that right along. We move that right along. I mean, that is so very important. And that's part of what the protocol and the Feel Great system does. It helps to be sure that we are getting that into our system, right? We are getting that into our system. We are making sure that our body can burn two different fuel sources, right? We can do, let's see, I'm trying to see. I'm kind of playing a little bit here with some different things. Ticker. I'm gonna try something real quick. I don't even know. I've never done this. Look at that cute little thing down there at the bottom. Look at that. Can y'all see that? That's kind of cool. That's pretty groovy. I didn't know I could do that. I didn't know I could do that. How about that? I don't want that going across the whole time. We're gonna take that off. So I'm sorry. I'm playing with that right there. I don't want that. There we go. Went away. All right. So sorry, just fun little things right there. I want to make sure that shows. Is that showing right there as well? I know I see one thing on there. Only get to see one thing at a time, apparently. All right. We get to see, wow, funky. All right. Awesome. Awesome. So if you are interested, if this is something that you are interested in ordering the Feel Great system, all right. If you are interested in that, in dealing with insulin resistance, that is my QR code. All right. You can go check that out. Go over to kenhagler.com and start working with Dr. G and I, and we will work on getting you started on the Feel Great system. I said that's the best way to do it. Just get that QR code. If you want to grab that, grab a screenshot, you have that in there. I'm still kind of working my way through this, so you guys can get to know me, to find out where I'm at, and using this as best I can. Thank y'all so much for being here today. Y'all go get the day, make it golden. I will be back around here. We are going to be doing a live over on the YouTube channel tonight. Dr. G and I will be on about metabolic renewing of our body and going into the science. She's going to be really handling some of the deeper science of this, particularly with medications. And we're going to have Derek Henderson, retired baseball player, is going to be on there. So we'd love to have you come be a part of that. Thanks so much for being here. Y'all go get the day, make it golden. We'll see you back around here on the flip side. And thank y'all for joining me in the live today.